Welcome to this week's episode of the Texan News Scoop, your weekend review of this week's top stories from the campus region and beyond. Today is November 6, 2015, and I'm Katy Tonkin. This week's top stories are: Tarleton professor introduces new equipment, Texas Bar Foundation awards CASA, Greg Abbott getting firm with immigration, gunman surrenders after 5-hour standoff, and UK Prime Minister gives light into Russian plane crash. In campus news, according to the Tarleton website, Dr. Joe Priest, a kinesiology teacher here at Tarleton, founded and became the director of the Laboratory for Wellness and Motor Behavior. This laboratory specializes in helping people who are paralyzed. The lab mainly works with those who have quadriplegia, paraplegia, hemiplegia, spina bifida, and multiple sclerosis. The main equipment is the Airdyne exercise bike, the Exenflex arm and leg wheelchair machine, Exenflex leg machine, New Step machine, Technogym Excite, and the recumbent cycle bike. Priest says it's something that most paralyzed patients have been able to do on their own. Some patients have even been able to gradually get off their medicines. In local news, according to the Stephenville Empire Tribune, the Texas Bar Foundation awarded the court-appointed special advocates, also known as CASA, for the Cross Timbers area a $7,340 grant to help continue its mission. Members of CASA are appointed by the presiding judge to advocate for children removed from their homes by Child Protective Services. These advocates investigate a child's situation in foster care, monitor their school and home life, research their physical and psychological health, and recommend to the judge what permanent placement would be best for the child. In Texas news, according to the Associated Press, Texas Governor Greg Abbott gave his first fiscal threat Wednesday to sanctuary cities by making a $250 million series of criminal justice grants off limits to counties that don't fully cooperate with federal immigration authorities. These new restrictions reflect a failed effort by Republicans in Congress last month to block money to jurisdictions that don't share immigration information or honor federal detention requests. Abbott is now getting more tough on implementing immigration measures, but on a smaller scale in Texas. In national news, according to the Associated Press, a gunman in a rooftop apartment finally surrendered to the police after a 5-hour standoff that interrupted air traffic at the San Diego airport. The suspect fired off numerous shots with high-powered rifle rounds inside the apartment complex near the airport. Suspect Titus Colbert walked out after tossing multiple weapons out of an apartment window. He was then taken into custody around 2:30 p.m. In international news, according to the Associated Press, British Prime Minister David Cameron said Thursday it was more than likely not on the Russian plane that crashed. It is believed that a bomb brought down a Metrojet flight filled with Russian passengers. We now turn to the AP for more.
British Prime Minister David Cameron justified suspending flights from Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, saying a bomb likely caused the crash of a Russian plane on Saturday.
The reason we've acted before that is because of intelligence and information we had that gave us the concern that it was more likely than not it was a terrorist bomb.
Cameron's decision has left thousands of British tourists stranded.
But, you know, I have to put the safety and want to put the safety of British people first. Now, if that Russian airliner was brought down by a terrorist bomb, that does have very real implications, and it means it's absolutely essential that we see that improvement of security at Sharm el-Sheikh Airport, and that's what I'll be discussing with the Egyptians today.
Egypt's president arrived in London Thursday to meet with Cameron with hopes of removing Britain's travel ban, which Egyptian officials believe is an overreaction. The Metrojet Airbus crashed just 23 minutes after takeoff from the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh Saturday, killing all 224 aboard. The radical Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the crash, a report rejected by Russian and Egyptian officials as not credible.
To be honest, it's quite shocking that the UK government has information which can shed light on what happened in the skies of Egypt. It turns out that this information, if it exists, and we assume that it does if a foreign minister shared it, that this information hasn't been given to the Russian side.
On the ground in Sinai, rescue teams have retrieved 140 bodies from the scene and should finish their search for remains of wreckage by Thursday evening. Meanwhile, the first crash victim was buried in Russia, about 100 miles outside of St. Petersburg. Family and friends described 60-year-old Nina Lashenko as a good mother and grandmother. Matt Friedman, Associated Press.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Texan News Scoop, a product of the Texan News Service from the Charleston State University campus in Stephenville, Texas. Today's show was produced by Alejandra Arguin and Forrest Murphy, and I'm Katy Tonkin. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter or by going to our website at www.texannews.net. Have a great weekend, Charleston Texans.